turn to Mark chapter 11. I'm going to hang out there for a while. So next week, my son-in-law, Roger, I don't know if you guys know Roger, most of you do, he will be here in my stead. I'm traveling to Budapest to do some teacher training and some other stuff in Hungary. So and we have communion next week, okay, James? Yeah, and then his message will fit right into that. Okay, so the title of this message today is Where Two Ways Meet. The seed thoughts came from our pastor this past message, but also I have been reading a book by Metaxas, Eric Metaxas. Maybe you've heard of him. He's a very popular author and a great Christian man. And wrote a book about Dietrich Bonhoeffer that I mentioned before. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor in Germany in the 1930s and the 1940s when Hitler came into power there, and the Nazis, and began to overtake the German people. And the story it's a biography, so he got all the letters that Bonhoeffer had written, interviewed people that are still alive, etc., and put together exactly what was happening in the church's life, and then also as compared to what was happening in the political life around Germany. And I'm not saying that our Lord is Hitler and America is Germany or anything like that. I'm just making the parallel that Christians we are in the world, and as being in the world, we have a certain role in that situation, and especially as we see things change around us, which are happening now. There are attitudes in our society today that never would have been voiced 10 years ago that are voiced today, and we are moving in a direction that is more and more godless. My wife is a teacher. She's an administrative vice principal. She reads lots of books. She reads books for fun. I don't read any books for fun. I read books because I have to. I'm really not a fun book reader kind of guy. But my wife reads recreationally. And of all the authors of all the books, barely can find, but she has not found, apart from Christian authors, anything in any book that really points you to God, to people praying, to God answering prayers, or any of that. It's like God in our country is being absolutely ignored, except this kind of warm and fuzzy, don't call him God, don't call him anything, because we all believe in something, and that's all we can call him. And as a consequence, God is like at arm's length from everybody. And even the believers in America are going along with the flow of that. So I want to take a look at us, the church, and what are we called to in this amazing world that we live in. Really amazing world. So what Dietrich Bonhoeffer concluded when as he was growing up and as things were changing, especially about the Jews, that Hitler had this. Yes, he wanted to conquer the world. Yes, he taught that the Aryan race was the most evolved race on our planet. And he taught that in order to stay alive, you have to be aggressive, you need to be strong, and you need to be a conqueror because of Darwinism, survival of the fittest. He said, in order for Germany to succeed and to stay alive, we must beat everybody else. That's the way everything is geared. Weak people should die. That's all there is to it. So old people died, crippled people died. They sent them to what they called hospitals, and they were killed there in those hospitals. They were used in experiments. And of course, the Jews especially were sent to camps and were experimented on, and 6 million died. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor at that time. He really loved the Lord. He was studying the Bible, and as
as ideas were coming to him, he was put in a position where he had to decide, am I going to speak or not? Am I going to become part of the Nazi machine or not? Am I going to stand up or not? Am I going to stand up against the tide? And he ultimately lost his life, spent 18 months in prison, and then was killed at the end of the 18 months because he refused to bow down. It's a, we say, well, that was Hitler, and that was Germany, that will never happen anywhere. But we know it does happen, and it is happening around us. And America, I don't know where America's going to end up. I pray for my country. We love America. We love the freedom that America represents to everybody in the world. The one country that everybody in the world would like to live in, if they could, would be here. That's amazing. They want to be where we are. We wake up in the morning and say, I'm not blessed. Well, everybody else on the planet would say, I'll trade with you. Right now, I'll trade with you. They want to be with you. I'll trade with you. You grow up where I am, and let me grow up where you are, because I want to be in America. I think that's an ideal that maybe the world has, but is eroding. We are eroding, though the idea is standing firm. But Paul told Timothy was a young pastor at Ephesus, and Paul told him, he said, if I stay where I am for a long time, I want you to know how you ought to behave in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. That's in 1 Timothy 3:15. He described the church as the pillar and ground of the truth. And it has two elements. One is that the church is to be filled with the truth, like a container for it. And then also that the church upholds the truth. So we contain the truth and we uphold the truth. That's what the church is. So Paul also told the Philippians in Philippians 2:14, he said, do all things without murmuring and disputing. Let's say that in our modern terms. Do all things without complaining and arguing. That would be amazing. All things without complaining and arguing. God into heaven. Do all things without complaining and arguing, that you may be blameless, that you can't be accused of doing wrong, and harmless, that you don't hurt people, the sons of God without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding forth the word of life. So we see that Paul is saying the way that you live your lives is blameless, that you live it so that you are not hurting people, that you have a Christian heart towards people, but then you shine as lights in the world. And that's a colon. And you shine as lights in the world, holding forth the word of life. So he repeats to the Philippians what he told Timothy, that you as individuals then are like the church. We are like containers of the truth and upholders of the truth. So if you think about who the church is, that's us, of course. We're the ones. So we are the light of the world. Jesus told us that in Matthew chapter 5. It's the theme of our concert, actually. That we are the light of the world. So this is very fitting. I didn't put that together, but so it is. We are the light of the world. And that means that we, you and me, I am, to hold up, contain and also hold up this amazing word of life. There's a proverb, and it says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. What is the wound of a friend? The wound of a friend is my friend telling me the truth, even when I'm not walking in it. Right? The wounds of a friend is that my friend is standing up for what's right and what's true, even if maybe it hurts me. That's why it's called the wounds of a friend. My friend is going to say, you shouldn't be doing that. Or my friend is going to say, you're wrong. Now in today's vocabulary, the word wrong is almost like being removed from our dictionary. Even teachers are struggling with being wrong. Well, don't tell your students they're wrong. You're going to hurt their psychology. You're going to hurt their self-esteem. Say that their opinion is not in alignment with what should ordinarily be happening, or something like that. Like, say it softly. Say, well, 1 and 1 can be 3 in your world, but it really doesn't work. So in our world, we're going to use 1 and 1 is 2, okay? Instead of saying, and 1 and 1 is 3 is wrong. Spelling bee, right? Gone. You spelled it wrong. You're gone. It is wrong. You can't spell it the wrong way. You can't have 1 and 1 equaling 3. If you have 1 and 1 equaling 3, you will go through life a very, very handicapped person. Because your machines will not work. Right? Your machine, the things you build, the things you do will not work. I need to tell you, you are wrong. We are okay with being told we're wrong. We know we're wrong anyway. That's not a problem for us to be wrong. So faith, love, the wounds of her friend. Now, what is truth? The word aletheia in the Greek is this word truth. Like, what is truth? And truth is that which does not change. If something is going to be true, it's not true in a certain situation, but biblical truth is true in all situations. It's everywhere, all the time, true. That is truth in the biblical sense of the word. Truth is also what defines reality. It defines reality, and also it determines reality. Truth, because actually truth came first and produced reality. So it determines reality and defines reality. It's that which is complete in word and in deed. If I say one thing and do another, I am not true. Right? It's dishonesty, but it literally means I am not true. In order to be true, truth is what on the inside, what it is on the outside. From the inside out is what our young band sings. Love it. So where do we find truth then? And the truth is found in the Word of God. Right? The first truth is that the Word of God in John 17:17. Sanctify them by thy word is truth. Jesus said 5 times in his Gospels, heaven and earth will pass away, but the Word of God will never pass away. It stands forever in heaven, the psalmist tells us. The universe was spoken into existence by the truth. It is upheld by the truth, and it operates in truth, otherwise known as laws. So, there are 3 ways in where if you think about where man and God have to be on the earth, there are 3 avenues that truth is discovered in man's world. Okay, 3 ways that truth is discovered in our world. And this is accepted by everybody. This is not for Christians, or it doesn't make a difference who you are. These 3 things are the way that we discover truth. One is through the scientific method. Right? The 5 steps of the scientific method. That starts with observation, and it goes on to hypothesis, and then experimentation, and then if it's true, it's either, we find it true, it's either rejected or it's accepted, becomes a law, and then we go on maybe to hypothesis. So the scientific method is how we find out truth. Now I want to take an example. Is it true that life started in a primordial soup billions of years ago? Is that true? Well, how would the scientific method prove it? Well, we could make a hypothesis. We believe that amino acids and complex proteins, and then some flash of energy happened, and from that life came. Great hypothesis, let's go with it. What do we do next? We experiment. And you go to laboratories around the world, and you have different people doing the same experiment. The reason different people do it is because you can't trust one guy to do it. It has to be able to be reproduced over and over and over again. So, everybody goes to the laboratory and tries to produce life in a test tube. Right? Everybody tries to produce life in a test tube. Since the time that they have begun to the present day, they have been unable to produce any kind of life from the fundamental elements that were supposedly present in the primitive planet. Therefore, since experiments cannot prove the hypothesis must therefore be rejected. Not true. Or we could say this, at least through the scientific method, you can't prove it's true. Okay, well there's another way that truth is found, and that is through mathematical calculation. How do you find what 1 and 1 equals, well, and that's an easy one. But how do you find the nth polynomial and such a quadratic equation? You use this equation and you calculate the nth polynomial of the equation and you calculate, there it is. It's like a 6 or 8 step process, and lo and behold, you go through the mathematical calculation, and it's true. It really is true that if you use mathematical calculations, you can arrive at the truth. Does that fit with the primordial soup and the primitive life? No, it doesn't. You can't do mathematical calculations and prove that. Okay, so let's do the third one. The third way to prove truth is called historical evidence. Our courts are based on historical evidence. Courts can also use scientific method and mathematical calculation, by the way, but the primary thing that courts use is historical evidence, which means that 2 or more witnesses establish the truth. So any eyewitnesses, yes, here's your, please take the stand, and we examine him, and then cross-examine him, and he was an eyewitness. The first thing they prove, where were you on the night of blah, blah, blah? I was sitting outside her apartment, and I was watching. What did you see? And he was an eyewitness. They proved he was an eyewitness, and he was an eyewitness. Because in the mouth of 2 or 3 eyewitnesses, the truth is established. So, could that have possibly happened? Were there any eyewitnesses to the first living amoeba, or whatever it was, single-celled organism? Yeah, thank you, John. They're having a blast out there. No, that could not have happened. There was nobody, obviously there was no one present, and surely we're not going to put him on the stand and cross-examine him as to what did it look like when that first single-celled organism exists or existed. I said all of that not to say that something was proven necessarily false, but it was not proven as true. The lie of our society is that it is not presented of how false it is or how we have been unable to reproduce what we say, what we thought was true, the hypothesis, based on some phenomena that we have seen. They do not declare the reality of the scientific method, but instead they declare the philosophical desire, which is, we say it's true. We say it's true. It is true that that's what happened. How do you know it's true? It is true. So, truth is very important to us. We like asking these questions. Truth loves to be asked these questions. Truth loves to be found out. And truth says, seek me. Come on. I'm right here. I'm standing right in front of you. Use what I've made you to be. Use your brains. Use your rationalism. Use your experiments. Use your technology. Use everything that you have and find me. Find me, because if you seek me, you can find me. In fact, not only can you find me, you're responsible to find me. Because if you live believing a lie, you are responsible for the lies that you believed, not the guy who told them. That's kind of amazing. Wait a minute, he lied to me. Yeah, you believed it. You believed it. And you lived your life according to something that wasn't true. And, by the way, it didn't even work. It doesn't work, because lies don't work.